A new KD trade talk update has just dropped, and this can change everything. As Desmond Bane was traded from the Memphis Grizzlies to the Orlando Magic, this trade could provide insight in what kind of package GM Rafael is preparing in a potential KD trade. And we are going to break all of that down right here on Rockets Digest. Hello, everybody. I am your host, Donovan Ricondo, and it is great to be here on this Monday morning. And let's get straight into things here today. As many of you guys have heard, the first blockbuster trade of the NBA offseason just occurred, with Desmond Bay being traded to the Orlando Magic. And it was a pretty hefty trade, which we'll get to in just a second. But a lot of people have been asking the question, right? How does this affect the trade for Kevin Durant? Does it do that at all? What kind of insights can we grab from this trade? Obviously, this would involve a comparison between Desmond Bane and Kevin Durant. As we know, Kevin Durant trade talks have been heating up. It's been crazy, all these updates that are coming in, with the Spurs being labeled as favorites once, the Rockets being labeled as favorites, the Timberwolves being labeled as a favorite, the Heat being a dark horse and potentially grabbing the former two-time NBA Finals MVP. And so there's a lot of teams in this mix and a lot of things happening in all of those discussions. But what I want to bring forth right now is the new update that we just received from NBA Central, not Centel, so we know this is 100% real. But it says this. This was released just this morning. A Kevin Durant trade is not expected to involve as many picks as the Grizzlies received for Desmond Bay, per Tim Bontemps. And that is pretty insightful, considering the types of trade packages that have been thrown around on the internet, the trade packages that we have even talked about right here on this channel. So I want to go more into depth of a Tim Bontemps quote from ESPN. He says, quote, "In speaking with several sources Sunday in the wake of the Bane deal, the universal belief is that any draft packages going to Phoenix in a Durant deal likely won't surpass the haul of draft picks coming to Memphis for Bane, who hasn't yet made an all-star team," end quote. And I find this to be very, very interesting from an NBA perspective, because as many of us know, Kevin Durant, one of the best players in the NBA. Any trade involving him, you would assume would be hefty. And for the trade that we saw yesterday with Desmond Bay, that was also hefty as well. And so when I see this report saying that the amount of first round picks or the amount of draft picks would not match or would not go past that of the Desmond Bane deal, is very, very insightful. And it's very interesting because it brings into question one of the main things that we've been talking about in these KD trade talks, which is KD's age. Now, I want to go and take a look at the stats, right? You have 26 points per game for Kevin Durant, has 6 rebounds, 4 assists, shooting 52% from the field, 43% from three. And if you look at Desmond Bane, those numbers are in fact less, right? 19 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, 5.3 assists, 48% from the field, and 39% from three-point range. And that just tells me, of course, that the age factor in these trade talks and what packages are going to look like this offseason are very dependent on the age of these young NBA stars. And, of course, Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant will be 37 by the start of next season. Desmond Bane will be 27. So there's a 10-year difference between these two players. And, trying to use math to kind of figure out what those deals could possibly look like is very, very interesting in terms of what that KD trade. Now, you're probably asking yourself, what was that Desmond Bane trade looking like, or what did it look like? Well, let's go and see what that, in fact, did look like. So the Magic receive Desmond Bane, and in return, the Grizzlies are receiving Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, a good, solid NBA veteran, a former champion in 2020 with the Lakers. There's Cole Anthony, the former North Carolina Tar Heel, who has shown some potential as a player. The number 16 pick in the 2025 NBA draft was included in that package, as well as the 2026 first-round pick via Phoenix, a 2028 first-round pick, a 2029 first-round pick swap, and a 2030 first-round picks. So for Desmond Bane, the Grizzlies are receiving KCP, Cole Anthony, solid players that could contribute to the Orlando Magic, 4 first-round draft picks, including the number 16 pick this year in a 2029 first-round pick swap. And looking at this, and then looking at the report of the trade for KD would not involve as many first-round picks is very, very telling, right? Because then you start to wonder, okay, now what would that package look like for the Houston Rockets in a potential trade for KD? Well, you got to start with the players that would be involved in such a trade, right? So you're looking to yourself, and you're looking at your roster, and you kind of have to tell yourself, okay, what are 2 players that would be in those conversations, right? And now we've thrown a lot of names, right? There's been Jabari Smith Jr. that has been in that. There has been Jalen Green that's been in that. There has been Cam Whitmore and Reed Shepard that have been involved in those trade discussions. And so you're starting to look at 2 to 3 players that would be involved in that sort of scenario. We also can look at the draft picks, right? What draft picks do the Houston Rockets currently own that could be shopped to Phoenix? Well, of course, you have to look at the one we have this year in the 2025 NBA draft, the 10th overall pick, which is already Phoenix's, which is something that is going to be included in a package no matter what. I don't see the Phoenix Suns doing a deal without that 10th pick that the Houston Rockets currently have from them. But let's take a look at what that looks like. And this is a very tiny font here, so I'm going to do my best to try to look at this and kind of see what exactly it all looks like. But in 2025, you have the 60th pick, or is that 2026? That's 2025. You have the 60th pick via OKC. You have some first-round picks in 2027, or 2 in 2027, a second-round pick in 2027, as well as another second-round pick in 2027. So you have a lot of draft capital in 2027 that could potentially be used for a trade for either KD or, if there's another star or player that we want to trade for this offseason, look for those 2027 first-round picks to be dealt with. Then you also have 2028. You also have 2029 and a 2030. And then not included in this graph is a first-round pick in 2031. And so the Houston Rockets, looking at all these picks here, have a lot of draft capital that they can send to the Phoenix Suns. Now, the question is that something that they are willing to do? Is that something that they are willing to do in exchange for 3 years for Kevin Durant? As we've known, as I broke down just yesterday, KD, one of his preferred trade destinations are the Houston Rockets, along with the Miami Heat and along with the San Antonio Spurs. In terms of the Miami Heat, kind of the dark horse in that scenario, not entirely sure what they're offering or what they are going towards. But in terms of the San Antonio Spurs, apparently Phoenix is not quite interested in the players that the Spurs are making available for a potential trade. They're probably Phoenix probably wants a young star, a young rookie of the year like Steph Castle that the Spurs are not open to giving away, or maybe some other stars on that team that the Spurs are just not going to budge on. And so that puts the Rockets in a position to take the lead in this KD discussion, right? They have the players, they have the draft capital to make that happen. But now it's just a question, right? KD says he wants to, if he comes to the Rockets, he will sign a long-term contract. But that long-term contract would probably only keep him around 2-3 years. So the Rockets front office has to ask itself, right? Is it worth it to trade for Kevin Durant, for the stars and the young stars and the draft capital that is available to them? Because one of the things that we point out, right, is if the price is right, by all means make the deal, right? So when I see a Desmond Bane for a trade for Desmond Bane that includes 2 pretty solid players, I wouldn't say they're anything crazy, but 2 decent role players and 4 first-round draft picks, I see that. And when I see that the draft capital will not be surpass that for a KD trade, I get a little bit excited, right? It changes the perspective on this, because if you can acquire KD for not as much and give away someone on the team that is malleable, is someone that can be replaced. Now, I'm not saying I don't like these players. I certainly love Jabari Smith Jr. and the progress he has made the past 3 years. But from what he has shown us, uh, he is someone that can be replaced. I love the guy. I think he came in clutch in a lot of key scenarios throughout the playoffs with the Golden State Warriors. But speaking truthfully, that is a player that can be replaced with a guy like Cam Whitmore, with a guy like Reed Shepard. I know that those guys aren't necessarily as tall and are not power forwards, but you still have that in the back of your head. And of course, with the re-signing of Steven Adams, that should certainly help in some aspects. But that is the baseline, right? A potential trade for Kevin Durant will not surpass those 4 first-round picks that Desmond Bane was involved with in that trade between the Grizzlies and the Orlando Magic. So that is the update for today. And I want you guys to tell me this. If the draft capital was 3 picks or less, let's say that 3 first rounders, two players, right? If that was the trade, would you be willing to accept that? Would you be willing to trade for 2 to 3 years of KD, who would be on a $60 million a year contract? Would that be something that you would be up for the front office to do? Let me know in the comments. And as always, if you have not subscribed already, hit that subscribe button below. We are covering all things Houston Rockets on this channel throughout the entire offseason. Things are just starting to heat up. We have draft day coming up, and so it is going to be very exciting what the Houston Rockets decide to do in terms of that. And so I have been your host, Donovan Ricondo. This has been an episode of Rockets Digest. So long.